Everyone, and welcome to another market snapshot. My name's Craig Erlam, senior market analyst at OANDA. Now today it has been another quiet day in the markets. I do think there is a big focus right now on the Jackson Hole speech from Janet Yellen on Friday, especially in the absence of any major news flow or much economic data. It's currently about half an hour until the US Open. US futures currently pointing to a very marginal move higher at the open, but again the theme in the US continues to be the same. We see these marginal moves higher or lower every few days. We seem to see a new record high, but we're not seeing any thrust in these markets. We're not seeing any momentum being dragged to the upside. Quiet markets, little news flow, and therefore little reason, it seems, to make any substantial gains. We're just floating around these record highs, making little marginal new records along the way. In Europe, we're seeing most European indices trading a little bit higher, but again, nothing substantial driving them. If we look in the currency markets, again, it's looking pretty quiet here. We are seeing some movement, particularly in the pound. Again, I do think this pound moves is broadly being driven by changing expectations regarding Bank of England stimulus. I think that data last week had a big impact on the outlook for the Bank of England and whether we're going to see more stimulus this year. The fact that we saw very resilient data for the first month following the Brexit vote may suggest that the Bank of England will instead opt to hold off on further monetary stimulus maybe till early next year, rather than do something straight away within months of the big monetary stimulus package that it did announce only a couple of weeks ago. Elsewhere, we are seeing a little bit of more weakness in Brent and WTI crude. And this comes ahead of the crude inventory data, which we've got to come later on today. The crude inventory data, of course, is going to be very key. It's been one of the key focal points now for quite a while. The API data last night showed a surprising build, and a significant build of that, of just under 4.5 million barrels. If that's going to be replicated today, then I imagine we're going to see a little bit more weakness in crude. That'll make it 4 weeks out of 5 that we've seen inventory build here, and only going to add to the oversupply story, with crude having come both off its highs, but also with Brent crude having dipped below $50 a barrel. I think the likes of WTI and maybe headed back towards, it may even go back towards the $45 a barrel levels in the next few days or the coming weeks, should we see a strong inventory number here once again. And I do think that's potentially what's weighing on Brent and WTI so far in today's session. Aside from that, like I say, it's been relatively quiet. Let's take a look at the economic data for signs of what we have to come. And like I say, there you go, very quiet. GDP data from Germany, revised GDP data came in line with expectations. We've got the existing home sales to come as well in about just under 2 hours' time. It's worth noting that new home sales rose to a 9-year high yesterday in the US for July. So that's strong indicator of how the housing market's performing, how the consumer is feeling right now in the US. Probably helped considerably by the fact that we are seeing falling levels of unemployment, which is below 5%. And the fact that we have got very low interest rates, very low mortgage rates, which has encouraged house buying. Existing home sales aren't quite at 9-year highs, but they are at some of the highest levels we've had since 2010. So it'll be interesting to see if we can see the momentum that we saw in the new home sales yesterday carried through to existing home sales today. We've also got EIA crude oil stocks, which, as I touched on a second ago, if we see anything in line with the API number, that could be quite bearish for Brent and WTI, assuming of course that it isn't already priced in. As always, check out the OANDA MarketPulse site for more great news and analysis. You can see my most recent piece there from an hour ago in relation to the Yellen speech on Friday. Another cracking piece as well from Jeffrey on the South African Rand and the latest events in South Africa, which led the South African Rand to sell off quite considerably overnight. More great content as well from Kenny in the last couple of hours in relation to the yen ahead of the Japanese inflation data, the pound, the dollar, and of course the Aussie. So worth checking that out, as well as all the other great analysis we've got on there from other analysts, including Dean and Alfonso and Stephen. For more in-depth, for more news about OANDA and to sign up for a free demo account, you can check out the OANDA website at oanda.com. You can also find out more about the OANDA Forex Labs tools at oanda.co.uk /analysis/labs.